You may have noticed a quiet, heavy feeling lately, perhaps a bit of fog in the mind or a digestive system that just doesn't seem to cooperate like it used to. Many of us reach for a quick pill or a modern synthetic fix. But there is a deeper, more ancient solution that we have largely forgotten in our fast-paced world. For thousands of years, long before the first pharmacy opened its doors, God provided a way to keep our bodies resilient through the simple, miraculous process of fermentation. It is the hidden art of transformation, where humble ingredients are made whole and powerful through time and patience. Modern life demands speed, but our bodies are designed for the slow, steady nourishment found in the traditions of our ancestors. Today, we are looking back to move forward, uncovering the living foods that were meant to sustain us. Hello, my friends, I'm David. It is a blessing to be with you today as we explore 15 fermented superfoods that your body is truly craving. These are not just trends. They are foundational provisions that appear throughout history, and even within the pages of Scripture. By the end of this video, you will understand how these foods can restore your energy, clear your mind, and strengthen your immune system in a way that feels natural and right. We're going to stack the benefits, looking at everything from bone density to heart health. It is about returning to a way of eating that honors the design of our bodies. I have seen these changes in my own life, and I am excited to share this journey with you. We are covering 15 items that can truly change your daily walk. Stay with me until the very end, because item number 15 is a deep red tonic that acts like a fountain of youth for your blood flow and liver health. It is perhaps the most powerful tool in the ancient toolkit, and yet almost no one talks about it today. Before we dive into the list, I must remind you that I am not a medical doctor. I am a fellow traveler on the path of wellness. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making significant changes to your diet, especially if you are managing specific health conditions or taking medications. Now, let's begin our countdown of these 15 life-giving foods. Food number 1, kefir. There is an old legend persistent across multiple cultures that the patriarch Abraham owed his remarkable longevity to a fermented drink made from milk. While we cannot prove the legend, the region it points to, the Caucasus Mountains, is a confirmed birthplace of kefir, one of the most biologically active fermented foods ever studied. The people of the Caucasus guarded their kefir grains for centuries, treating them as family heirlooms and calling them a gift from God. Once researchers finally studied them in the late 19th century, it became clear why these mountain peoples held them in such reverence. Kefir is not just liquid yogurt. Where yogurt typically contains a handful of bacterial strains, kefir grains host a living symbiotic community of bacteria and yeasts, sometimes upward of 50 distinct species. The result is a drink with a microbial density that no other food matches. A 2017 review in Nutrition Research Reviews concluded that regular kefir consumption is associated with reduced cholesterol, lowered blood pressure, and anti-inflammatory activity. Studies in Frontiers in Microbiology found that kefir's bacterial strains demonstrated antimicrobial activity comparable to clinical antibiotics against certain pathogens. Kefir also improves the absorption of calcium and phosphorus, the two minerals most critical to your bone density. Because the bacteria consume most of the lactose during fermentation, many people who cannot tolerate milk handle kefir remarkably well. To use it, simply replace your morning milk with a cup of plain, unsweetened kefir. It is a simple way to start your day with a literal army of good bacteria working for your health. Start with a small amount to let your system adjust to the new life. Food number 2, sourdough bread. In the book of Exodus, leaven sits at the center of one of the most remembered events in the Bible. The Israelites fled Egypt so quickly that their bread had no time to rise, and the unleavened flatbread they carried became a memorial. What this story reveals is that fermented, leavened bread was the everyday norm. Its absence was so unusual it was worth marking. The Egypt they fled was a sophisticated bread-making civilization, producing sourdough as far back as 4,000 years ago. Fermented bread was not a luxury, it was daily bread. The fermentation process fundamentally transforms grain. Wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria break down phytic acid, a compound in wheat that binds to zinc, iron, and magnesium, blocking your body from absorbing them. In commercial bread, those minerals are largely inaccessible, but in properly fermented sourdough, they become bioavailable. The bacteria also partially digest the gluten, making it much easier on the gut. A study in Acta Diabetologica found that sourdough produced a significantly lower glycemic response than bread made with standard yeast. I remember my own grandmother keeping a jar of starter on her counter. She didn't know the science, but she knew her family felt better eating it. When buying sourdough, ensure it is authentic and made without commercial yeast. Look for long fermented on the label. It should have a distinct tang and a chewy texture. Use it for your morning toast or a sandwich. It is a beautiful way to enjoy the grains God provided without the inflammatory spikes of modern white bread. Just be mindful of portions if you are watching your overall carbohydrate intake. Food number 3, raw cultured yogurt. The land promised to Abraham is described more than 20 times in Scripture as a land flowing with milk and honey. In the ancient Near East, milk stored in animal skins fermented naturally and consistently. What the nomadic herders were drinking was the ancestor of what we call yogurt, not the sweetened, pasteurized product sold in plastic cups today, but a thick, sour, living preparation packed with lactic acid bacteria. The distinction matters enormously because pasteurization kills the bacteria, eliminating the probiotic benefit. True cultured yogurt delivers Lactobacillus bulgaricus and Streptococcus thermophilus in concentrations that can meaningfully shift your gut microbiome. A 2021 clinical trial at Stanford University found that a high fermented food diet, including yogurt, led to a significant increase in microbiome diversity and a decrease in 19 separate inflammatory proteins. This includes molecules associated with chronic inflammation and arthritis. Yogurt's history stretches back 5,000 years across Central Asia and the Middle East. In ancient medicine, it was considered essential for digestive balance. To get the benefit, you must look for raw or unpasteurized labels, or better yet, make it at home using a starter culture and low heat. Avoid the versions loaded with corn syrup or artificial flavors. I like to add a handful of fresh blueberries and a drizzle of local honey to mine. It makes for a perfect afternoon snack that cools the body and settles the stomach. It is a simple, creamy way to invite peace into your digestive tract. Always choose full-fat versions if possible, as the healthy fats help your body absorb the fat-soluble vitamins found in the milk. Food number 4, miso. Japan's relationship with miso stretches back over 1,000 years, but the practice of fermenting soybeans originated in ancient China, predating the birth of Christ. Miso is made by inoculating cooked soybeans and grains with a mold called Aspergillus oryzae, then leaving it to ferment for months or even years. The result is a dense, savory paste alive with microbial activity. The fermentation breaks down soy proteins into bioavailable amino acids and converts isoflavones into more active forms. The epidemiological data around miso is difficult to ignore. Japan's Ministry of Health followed 20,000 women for over a decade and found that those who ate 2 bowls of miso soup daily were 26% less likely to develop certain cancers. Perhaps most surprising is what miso does to blood pressure. Although it is a high-sodium food, research has shown that miso does not raise blood pressure the way table salt does. The fermentation byproducts appear to neutralize the cardiovascular effect of the sodium. Ancient Japan had no framework to explain this chemistry, but they kept eating it every morning because it worked. To use it, whisk a tablespoon of miso paste into warm water or broth. Never boil the miso itself, as high heat will kill the beneficial enzymes and bacteria. It makes a wonderful, warming base for a light soup or a savory glaze for roasted vegetables. I often have a small cup of miso broth in the evening when I feel a bit restless. It provides a grounding, salty satisfaction that doesn't disrupt my sleep or my heart rhythm. It is a humble paste that carries the wisdom of the East directly to your kitchen table. Food number 5, sauerkraut. Fermented cabbage has a history that runs across 2 continents simultaneously. Workers building the Great Wall of China were fed fermented cabbage, and in Europe, every peasant household knew how to ferment it to survive the winter. The method was the same: pack shredded cabbage with salt, press out the brine, and wait. In 1768, Captain James Cook sailed the South Pacific with thousands of pounds of sauerkraut and returned 3 years later without a single death from scurvy. While fresh cabbage has vitamin C, properly fermented cabbage has been measured at upward of 600 milligrams per cup. The fermentation concentrates and preserves the nutrients. But vitamin C is only part of the story. Sauerkraut is one of the few plant-based foods containing vitamin K2, which directs calcium into your bones rather than letting it deposit in your arteries. This is crucial for us as we age and want to keep our hearts and bones strong. A study in the Journal of Dairy Science noted that the lactobacilli in sauerkraut are particularly hardy and can survive the journey through the stomach. When shopping, you must avoid the shelf-stable canned variety that has been heat-treated and is biologically dead. Look for raw, unpasteurized sauerkraut in the refrigerated section of your grocery store. It should contain only cabbage, salt, and perhaps some caraway seeds or water. Eat a forkful or two before your main meal. This bitter start primes your digestion and introduces the enzymes needed to break down your dinner. It is a simple, crunchy tradition that has protected sailors and peasants alike for centuries, and it can protect you too. Food number 6. Fermented fish sauce. The Romans called it garum, and it was so central to their world that they built a major industry around it. Garum was made from small fish like anchovies and sardines, packed in salt and left to ferment under the sun for months. The biblical world had its own version, as fermented fish preparations were part of the culture shared across the Mediterranean long before Rome rose to power. The Book of Numbers records the Israelites mourning the fish they ate in Egypt, a country with fish traditions stretching back to 300 BC. What fermentation does to fish is nutritionally significant. The long enzymatic breakdown generates a dense concentration of glutamate, providing that savory umami flavor. Beyond flavor, it produces bioavailable amino acids and preserved omega-3 fatty acids. Research on fermented fish sauce has identified specific peptides that inhibit the enzymes responsible for raising blood pressure, similar to how certain medications work. Traditional fish sauce is a living condiment carrying the concentrated power of the whole fish. You don't need much, just a few drops in a stew or a dressing can add a depth of flavor and a boost of nutrition. I recently started adding a dash to my vegetable soups, and the difference in richness is incredible. It doesn't taste fishy once it's cooked in. It just tastes complete. Look for brands that list only fish and salt as ingredients, avoiding those with added sugar or preservatives. It is a salty ancient secret for heart health and flavor that has been used by empires to sustain their people. By using it sparingly, you tap into a culinary heritage that spans the entire history of the Mediterranean. Food number 7, natto. This is the one that stopped cardiovascular researchers cold. Natto is a traditional Japanese food made from soybeans fermented with a bacterium called Bacillus subtilis natto. It has a strong smell and a sticky texture, but it is the most biologically remarkable fermented food on Earth. In 1980, Dr. Hiroyuki Sumi found that natto could dissolve blood clots in a laboratory setting within 18 hours. The enzyme responsible is called nattokinase, and it is produced only during this specific fermentation. Plain soybeans have none of it. Nattokinase is a fibrinolytic agent, meaning it dissolves the protein that gives blood clots their structure. A 16-year study of 30,000 Japanese individuals found that regular natto consumption was associated with a 43% lower risk of dying from heart disease. Another study showed a 36% reduction in arterial plaque size over time. Natto also contains the highest concentration of vitamin K2 of any food, which is essential for moving calcium out of the blood and into the bones. While the taste can be challenging for some, its benefits are undeniable. You can find it in Asian grocery stores, usually in small styrofoam packs. Many people eat it over rice with a little mustard or soy sauce. If you find the texture too difficult, you can look for nattokinase supplements, but the whole food is always the gold standard. It is a powerful example of how a simple fermentation process can create a medicine that no laboratory has been able to perfectly replicate. It is a gift for the heart, preserved through 1,000 years of Japanese breakfast traditions, waiting for us to rediscover its life-saving potential. Food number 8, fermented olives. The olive is perhaps the most scripturally significant plant in the Bible. From the dove's branch after the flood to the Mount of Olives, where Jesus prayed, it is a thread through the entire narrative. In the ancient world, olives were almost never eaten fresh because they are brutally bitter. The traditional method to make them edible is extended brining and fermentation. When olives are submerged in salt water, lactic acid bacteria break down the bitter compounds and fill the fruit with active cultures. The olives consumed daily in biblical Israel were almost certainly fermented in this manner. They were everyday food, providing beneficial bacteria, antimicrobial compounds, and potent polyphenol. Hydroxytyrosol, produced during olive fermentation, has an antioxidant capacity that rivals pharmaceutical options in research models. These compounds have shown activity against the bacteria responsible for stomach ulcers and certain cancers. The people of the Bible ate these every day without knowing the chemistry, but their cardiovascular systems were being protected. When you buy olives, look for those that are naturally cured or brined. Avoid the canned black olives that use lye or chemicals to speed up the process, as these lack the probiotic benefits. I like to keep a jar of Kalamata or Castelvetrano olives in the fridge. A small handful with a piece of cheese makes for a snack that feels like it belongs in a sun-drenched garden in Galilee. It is a way to eat the history of the Holy Land while supporting your heart and your gut. The olive tree is a symbol of peace, and its fruit, when properly prepared, brings a similar peace to the internal workings of your body. Food number 9, rye kvass. Few people outside Eastern Europe have heard of kvass, but it was once more common than water in many cities because fermentation made it safer to drink. Kvass is made by fermenting dark rye bread with water. The result is a lightly sour, effervescent drink packed with B vitamins and lactic acid bacteria. Rye has a history in Slavic food culture stretching back thousands of years. The specific fiber in rye, combined with fermentation, produces butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that is the preferred energy source for the cells in your colon. A colon well supplied with butyrate has a healthier barrier and lower inflammation. Research from Scandinavia has found that fermented rye products improve fasting glucose levels and reduce cholesterol. Kvass was the daily drink of those who couldn't afford wine, made from leftover bread to waste nothing. It is a beautiful example of stewardship and health. You can find rye kvass in European specialty markets, or you can make it yourself with a few slices of toasted rye bread, water, and a little sugar to feed the yeast. It is refreshing and far better for you than any modern soda. I find that a glass of kvass in the afternoon gives me a gentle lift without the crash of caffeine. It tastes of the earth and the field, a humble beverage that has sustained millions of workers through the long centuries. It reminds us that even the crumbs of our daily bread can be transformed into something that brings life and vigor to the body. It is a testament to the resourcefulness of our ancestors and the goodness of the grains they cultivated. Food number 10, kimchi. Korea's most iconic food is one of the most thoroughly studied fermented vegetables on earth. Kimchi, made of salted and spiced cabbage, has been a cornerstone of Korean cuisine for over 2,000 years. It began as a way to make vegetables last through the harsh winters. In 2021, a landmark study at Stanford University compared a high-fermented food diet to a high-fiber diet. The group eating fermented foods like kimchi showed a stunning increase in microbiome diversity and a consistent reduction in 19 different inflammatory proteins. The high-fiber group did not show the same results. This suggests that the life in the food is just as important as the fiber itself. Kimchi produces high concentrations of Lactobacillus plantarum, a strain known for fighting off gut pathogens. Research has even linked kimchi consumption to a decreased risk of colorectal cancer. It is spicy, crunchy, and incredibly flavorful. I remember the first time I tried it. The heat was a surprise, but the way it made my digestion feel was an even bigger one. You can find it in almost any grocery store now. Add a spoonful to your eggs in the morning, or serve it alongside a piece of grilled chicken. It provides a kick of flavor that wakes up your palate and your immune system. Just ensure you are buying the refrigerated version to get the live cultures. The ancient Koreans solved the problem of winter storage and accidentally created one of the world's greatest health foods. It is a masterclass in immune regulation that you can easily incorporate into your modern life to stay resilient against the stresses of the day. Food number 11. Fermented goat's milk. In Genesis 18, Abraham prepares a meal for his visitors consisting of milk and curds. These curds were almost certainly a form of fermented goat's or sheep's milk, as fresh milk would sour quickly in the heat. These biblical curds are the ancestor of what is now called labna, a thick, strained fermented product. Goat's milk has a different structure than cow's milk, making it naturally easier for us to digest, especially as we get older. When fermented, it becomes even more bioavailable. Research has found that fermentation significantly increases the absorption of iron and copper from goat's milk compared to other types. This was a vital protection against anemia in the ancient world. The Maasai of East Africa, who consumed large amounts of fermented milk, were found to have almost no heart disease despite their high-fat diet. The fermentation was the key. You can find labna or fermented goat's milk yogurt in many health food stores. It has a wonderful, tangy flavor that is much milder than you might expect. I love to spread a little labna on a piece of sourdough toast with a sprinkle of herbs. It feels like a meal that could have been served under the oaks of Mamre. It is a soft, gentle way to support your bones and your blood. By choosing goat's milk over cow's milk, you are often choosing a product that is closer to what our ancestors consumed for millennia. It is a creamy, soothing tradition that honors the animals and the land, providing us with the strength to continue our walk in faith and health. Food number 12, kombucha. The Chinese Emperor Qin Shi Huang, who lived around 220 BC, was said to be obsessed with finding an elixir of immortality. His physicians served him a fermented tea they called the divine tea. This beverage eventually became what we know as kombucha. It is made by fermenting sweetened tea with a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, known as a SCOBY. The fermentation process consumes the sugar and leaves behind organic acids, B vitamins, and a drink rich in polyphenol. One compound of interest is glucuronic acid, which the liver uses to neutralize and excrete toxins. Animal studies have consistently shown that kombucha can reduce markers of liver damage. It has antimicrobial and antioxidant properties that support the whole body. While it is not a literal elixir of immortality, it is a powerful tonic for the modern world. When choosing kombucha, look for brands with low sugar content, as some modern versions are more like soda than traditional tea. I like to have a small glass in the mid-afternoon. The natural effervescence is very refreshing, and it helps clear the brain fog that often sets in after lunch. It is a living drink that carries the history of ancient Chinese courts into our current age. It reminds us that tea is more than just a warm beverage. It is a base for a complex biological process that can help our bodies stay clean and functional. It is a sparkling, tart reminder that nature has provided everything we need to maintain our temples in good working order, provided we have the patience to let the fermentation do its work. Food number 13, apple cider vinegar. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, used vinegar to treat infections 400 years before Christ. The Babylonians were making it 5,000 years ago. In the Bible, Ruth is offered bread dipped in vinegar, and it was offered to Jesus on the cross. This is one of the oldest fermented tools in human history. Apple cider vinegar is made through a two-stage fermentation that creates acetic acid, the source of its many benefits. If you get the raw, unfiltered version, it contains the mother, which is a colony of beneficial bacteria. The strongest evidence for vinegar lies in blood sugar regulation. A study in diabetes care found that taking vinegar before a high-carb meal significantly lowered blood glucose levels afterward. It works by slowing down the enzymes that turn starch into sugar. This is a simple, natural way to manage the energy spikes that can be so hard on our bodies as we age. To use it, mix 1 tablespoon in a large glass of water before your largest meal. Never drink it straight, as the acid can be hard on your tooth enamel and throat. I have made this a daily habit, and I find it helps me feel much more stable throughout the evening. It is a humble, inexpensive liquid that has been used for 5 millennia to preserve food and health. It is a testament to the fact that the most effective solutions are often the simplest ones, hidden in plain sight in our pantries. By reaching for the vinegar, you are joining a lineage of health-conscious people that stretches back to the very dawn of civilization. Food number 14, fermented black garlic. Garlic appears in the Bible when the Israelites in the wilderness remember the foods of Egypt. Egypt's relationship with garlic was profound. It was fed to pyramid workers and used as medicine for dozens of conditions. Fermented black garlic is a modern take on this ancient staple. It is made by aging whole garlic bulbs under controlled heat and humidity. This process turns the cloves jet black and transforms the pungent chemicals into a compound called S-allylcysteine. This compound is more stable and more easily absorbed by your body. Black garlic has been found to have up to 10 times the antioxidant power of raw garlic. A study in nutrition research found that it significantly improved cholesterol levels over 12 weeks. It also helps prevent the molecular damage associated with high blood sugar. The best part is the flavor. It is sweet like balsamic vinegar or molasses, and it doesn't leave you with garlic breath. You can find it in specialty stores or online. I like to mash a clove into a salad dressing or simply eat one plain. It feels like a savory treat rather than a supplement. It is a beautiful example of how we can take a gift from the earth and, through a little bit of time and warmth, make it even more beneficial for our hearts and our longevity. If the Israelites had this version in the desert, they might have been even more reluctant to leave it behind. It is a potent, dark, and delicious way to protect your arteries and keep your system clear of the oxidative stress that ages us prematurely. Food number 15, fermented beet kvass. This is the deep red tonic I promised you. While beets were grown in the hanging gardens of Babylon, it was the Slavic people who perfected this fermentation. Beet kvass is made by fermenting raw beets in salt and water. The result is a salty, earthy liquid that is a powerhouse for your blood. Beets are naturally high in nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide. This molecule relaxes your blood vessels, lowering your blood pressure and improving circulation. Clinical trials have shown that beet juice can lower systolic blood pressure by significant margins, but fermentation makes it even better. The process increases the bioavailability of the antioxidants that give beets their color. Research shows that fermented beet preparations contain higher levels of these protective compounds than raw or cooked beets. It also provides a massive boost to liver detoxification. A small glass in the morning is like a tune-up for your entire circulatory system. I often tell my friends that if they only try one thing on this list, it should be this. It has a very strong, unique taste, but the way it makes you feel, more alert, more vibrant, is worth it. It is a traditional blood purifier that modern science is finally beginning to understand. It represents the pinnacle of fermented wisdom, taking a simple root and turning it into a life-giving elixir. It is the perfect way to round out our list, a vibrant red symbol of the life that flows through us, and the care we must take to keep that flow strong and clear. As we look back over this list, from the ancient mountains of the Caucasus to the gardens of Babylon and the shores of Galilee, a pattern emerges. We see the strength of kefir, the daily sustenance of sourdough, the cooling comfort of yogurt, and the savory protection of miso. We remember the resilience of those who ate sauerkraut and the heart-saving power of natto and fish sauce. We see the tradition in olives, the resourcefulness in rye kvass, the immunity in kimchi, and the gentle nourishment of goat's milk. We find the energy in kombucha, the balance in apple cider vinegar, the antioxidant shield of black garlic, and the circulatory fire of beet kvass. Each of these is a thread in a tapestry of wellness that God has woven through human history. They are the old paths that lead to a good way, where we can find rest and strength for our souls and our bodies. These foods are not just fuel, they are information for our cells, telling our bodies how to be calm, how to heal, and how to thrive in a world that often feels designed to wear us down. Healing is rarely a sudden event. It is most often the result of slow, daily nourishment. These ancient foods have returned to us at a time when we need them most, reminding us that we don't always need the newest invention to find health. Sometimes we just need the oldest wisdom. Our ancestors understood that time is an ingredient, that patience is a virtue, and that the smallest organisms can do the greatest work. By bringing these fermented superfoods back to our tables, we are reclaiming a heritage of health that was nearly lost. We are choosing to listen to the needs of our bodies rather than the noise of the world. It is a journey of returning to the basics, to the earth, and to the provisions that have stood the test of time across every generation and every culture since the beginning. I encourage you to pick just one of these foods to start with this week. Perhaps it's a bottle of kefir or a jar of real sauerkraut. Try it, see how your body responds, and then come back and tell us about it in the comments. We are a community walking this path together, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this message has been a blessing to you, please share it with a friend and subscribe to our channel so we can continue this journey together. It is an honor to share these truths with you. May the Lord bless you and keep you.